What is up and welcome in. We are the One and Done Show, and we are continuing our summer road trip series, this time swinging through sunny Tampa Bay, Florida, as we talk with newly extended USF Bulls head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. Coach talks to us about everything that went into a very successful first season at the helm for the Bulls, his expectations for the seasons to come, and how he has brought an edge to a Bulls program on the rise. Stick around after the interview as the captain, Mike Holland, and I give our thoughts on the conversation, take a look at the Bulls' projected roster, and preview what is sure to be another great season of AAC basketball. But for now, put on the sunscreen, get your horns up, and enjoy our conversation with USF head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim.
Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
My honor to introduce today's special guest on the One and Done Show. He is the head coach of the South Florida Bulls. He is Coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. Coach, thanks for spending some time with us today. How are you?
Man, thank you guys for having me, Eric and Mike. Man, I'm doing well. I can't complain at all. Just down here in sunny Tampa. Man, taking it all in, getting ready to welcome these guys back to campus here in a week and a half or so and get to it, man.
And we are thrilled that you're taking some time to chat with us here today. USF has been playing basketball for 53 years, but it wasn't until you made your way onto campus that they hung 25 wins on the board, right? A tremendous first season. You know, this is what led to you guys winning the AAC regular championship. You were named AAC Coach of the Years, right? So clearly, congratulations are in order. This is evidenced by a recent extension. So you're going to be on the sideline there for the Bulls for a number of years to come. So again, congratulations on an amazing first season. And I wanted to ask from your perspective, like what are some of the key factors that helped enable such a fast start to your tenure there with the Bulls?
Well, again, guys, I appreciate you having me on. You know, you just talked about a lot of, different accolades, the extension, man. To God be the glory, man. I'm really fortunate to have a great staff. They support me at a high level and they help us get the most out of these guys. Man, I really believe, I've been fortunate throughout my career. I've worked for some big time head coaches. Not just X and O guys or recruiters, but guys who had to build programs and rejuvenate programs. And I've been fortunate to be able to see what it takes and what it should look like. And, when I got here, I remember going over to ask Coach Fernandez on the women's side, like, Coach, man, you've been here 24 years, like, talk to me. And, he just simply said, look, man, you gotta do the job you got. He said, you can't do the job and be looking at what's next. And it was like he had known. It's like I was messing with him, like, man, my parents, and obviously he doesn't. But my parents, man, they raised us, on a set of principles and values of, man, you do the job you got. You be where your feet are. Like, you focus on where you are right now. Do the best job you can right now, and what's going to come, what God has for you, he has for you. And so, it's what I did at Kennesaw. It's what I did, it's what I focused on when I got here. And what I did when I got here, instead of just jumping in, trying to prove it to everybody I could coach and develop, man, I sat and listened. And, I talked to, the players. I talked to the people that had been around the program. I was just trying to figure out, why, like, because I think the previous year they were 14 and 18 or something like that. And I'm like if what you guys know, one or two games, the other way, and I'm probably not sitting there as the head coach. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what was it? And the more and more I just listened, the more like we needed to establish an environment that was going to allow us to establish an elite culture. And we focused on that every day. Habits, on and off the court, habits. When we came in the gym, man, like, this is how we carry ourselves. This is what it looks like. And, I say this humbly. I got great parents. My parents weren't afraid to discipline us. I knew they loved us, but as my mom and dad both would say, hey, loving you is making sure you do the right thing. So, hey, I love y'all guys,
like
man.
my parents.
I'm gonna be chest bumping you, man, when in my suit when you hit a big time three or get a dunk. But I'm gonna love you too when you miss that class or you late for class. I'm gonna love you every day.
Absolutely, Coach. Sounds like that first year, man, you guys had a lot of fun. You were able to kind of find out, what expectations you guys needed to clear there. So wanted to know from you, though, like having that type of season can present some challenges the following year. Like, how do you prevent complacency from setting in for not only your program, but for yourself?
Well, as I've told, as we talked about with the guys last year, we weren't going to let outside expectation or somebody else's expectation define what success was for us. We won 25 games. We won a championship. Yeah, that's successful. But what really made those guys successful was, man, in a really individualistic time, in college sports, man, they decided to be a team. They didn't let a 6-game win streak or a 15-game win streak, splinter them. Like if anything, they came closer together. And it's why we were able to have the success that we had, was because they decided to be a team. So how do we not let complacency sit in? Well, that's my job. And, I'm one of 13 children, and you get too high on yourself, you get beat up in my family. So, I don't need my older sisters coming down here to beat me up. I don't need Sharif coming down here to beat me up and remind me to stay humble. Like but more importantly, man, I want to do it again. And yeah, we had really good success, but we still didn't reach what we wanted the ultimate goal to be, and that's the NCAA tournament. So it's still more work to do. Now that doesn't mean because we didn't make the NCAA tournament, our season was a failure, but that means we got more work to do, because I want to win the championship and go to the tournament.
It is clear to anyone who is paying attention that you guys have your eyes on a bigger prize, and year one was phenomenal, but it was simply a stepping stone on that journey that you're on here. So checking in with USF Bulls head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. Coach, we're gonna talk plenty more about your program and some of the stuff that you're working on there, but I want you to take us back a couple of steps, right? Back to your playing days at Southeastern Louisiana. You're finishing up that playing career. I'm curious to know, what was it that made the light bulb go off that led you down the coaching path, right? How did you decide that you wanted to get into coaching?
Man, you hear me talk about my parents a lot, because before I'm anything, I'm their son, right? And I'm ultimately a reflection of them, But man, I can hear my dad saying it, we can plan, but God is the best of planners, right? And I wanted to play, man. I wanted to go play, and probably about 5 weeks before I was supposed to leave and go play, I'm working out in a gym, and man, it rained the night before and nobody realized it was a leak. I go to plant, on the baseline, and I sprained my MCL like really bad, and it was what it was. Well, that led me to playing in the ABA for a year, and it was like, man, there's no joke. I'm in Chicago and playing for a team up there, and man, we get a phone call one Saturday morning like, yo, y'all got to be at the apartments by Monday. The team's folded. We're like, and Brandon Dean, who played at Arkansas, was my roommate, and it was like a movie, man. We both walked out of our room at the same time, like, man, you get that call? And he's like, yeah. So
wow.
I was back in Atlanta, and I started actually flipping houses when, like, my brother had a business partner. And then Sharif just happened to be in the Atlanta airport one day. He ran into a guy who was the owner of the Atlanta. It was the Atlanta Vision was the name of the team. And he said, yeah, man, my brother, like, the guy was like trying to tell my brother to come play. My brother like, man, I'm in the middle of the season. What you talking about? But he's like, man, I got a little brother who play. And so he hooked me up. I finished playing that year there. And then the next year, I was supposed to go, or I did. I went back to Southeastern as a GA. The next year, I was supposed to go to Miami as a GA. Coach Kennedy, Billy Kennedy, who I played for in college, He was an assistant there. Well, that spring he gets the Murray State job. And just so you know, I had no interest in coaching. I didn't want to coach, guys. Like I wanted to get my master's degree. I got my undergraduate. I got my bachelor's in business. I wanted to go back to Atlanta, open up strip malls, sit back and let my money roll in. That's what I wanted to do. But like, man, being up there and listening to those, like I lived with two of our players. And so because I lived with two players as a GA, all the rest of the guys, they rolled through there. They realized, oh man, Amir kind of cool. Like, man, we go hang out with them. And I would listen to like their stories or their goals, their ambitions, and all of them wanted to be pros. And I had been fortunate enough to be around for Sharif all those years when he was, you know, going through the league. And man, I watched him come home every summer and work like an absolute fiend, like he was still trying to make the NBA. And I never forget, I told one of our guys, I was like, man, stop talking to me about being a pro, man. You don't got the work ethic or the habits. Like you talk a good game, but every time I ask you to come in the gym, you don't ever want to come in the gym. And that was God's plan right there. It was like me using my experiences, like from playing, being around Reef to help impact younger guys and help them become who they were supposed to be and reach those goals that they had. And that's how I got into coaching. I did not want to, and I just ended up getting bit by the bug. And, you know, the rest is kind of history, not to be corny.
Well, Coach, I think you made the right decision. Absolutely. So I wanted to shift gears back to where things currently stand for your program. As far as a roster perspective, like typically the headlines in the offseason of college basketball, they center around the transfer portal, NIL, which we'll get to some of that in a little bit. But first, you have some guys back that are going to be here for year 2 for you. So what do you expect from those returning players? And just want to get your overall thoughts on the roster retention in today's game.
No, like I'm really excited about our group. You know, like you said, most people want to focus on who you lost. Man, we get to coach Jayden Reid in year 2, you know, and he had a phenomenal freshman year. You know, shooting 48% from 3, you know, 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, led us in steals. Like he had a phenomenal year, and you get to have him back a year older, stronger, more mature, you know. And this year with having a older Kobe Knox, older Case and Jennings, who redshirted last year because of an injury. Like I really like this roster, you know. And then adding Jamil Reynolds from Cincinnati, adding Deontay Green from Florida State. You know, it's hard to say, like, man, you won 25 games, but I like this group. I think we got a chance to be better. You know, Jimmy Williams, a JUCO prospect from Wallace State, Hansville, who can score it with the best of them. Mm-hmm. So I look at this roster, and I just like who this team can become, because it's high character kids who really, really love to work.
Want to double click there a little bit, Coach. You know, clearly, molding and shaping your roster by way of the transfer portal is a foundational piece for how you think about building your team overall. But you know, in terms of the process, the methodology, you know, your overall approach to building a successful roster in the days of essentially free agency in college basketball, can you kind of walk us through, you know, how you wrap your head around it, how you attack this, you know, this wide open field of player mobility?
So, you know, a lot of times it's still about relationships, man. You know, and so I think it's really important at a place like USF, man, like as much as you can, like Tampa St. Pete, I'm talking about, is just crawling with dudes. Like when I got here and I started to talk to the high school coaches and the grassroots coaches and the dudes that left here and went other places, like, man, I was like mad. You know, I ain't had no say so. I mean, some of these dudes, you know, Barry Brown 4 or 5 years ago, you know, I'm like, man, like when you think about the dudes that have just come out of this area, like, man, you could have played for a couple national championships, right? Like, no joke. Like Juwan Durham, you know, Juwan Durham leaves here, goes, I think he went to Duke, I think I want to say, Janai Broom he went to Tampa Catholic. He played with Kobe Knox, you know, and then like Kobe Knox, he goes out to Grand Canyon his first few years. this dude, he a dude, like he's a dude. And so to answer the question, like we're focusing on home. We're going to take care of home. And the way that we do it, like we kind of go about building these rosters, it still has to be based off relationship a little bit. So it may be a kid we recruited that we didn't get somewhere else. And, oh, he's in the portal. Okay, great. Like, man, like we know he fits who we are, from a character standpoint, and then take Jamil Reynolds. Jamil is from St. Pete. I've known his high school coach, Coach Lawrence, forever. Even when I was at the College of Charleston, I recruited Jacoby Boykin from him, who ended up going to La Tech. So, like, there's a relationship there to where Jamil's not trying to figure out with 1 year left, man, can I trust this dude? Like, I got Coach Lawrence to say, like, Jamil, I done known Coach Amir this long. This is what he about. Boom. And I got to be held accountable, on the things that I said I was going to do for Jamil and like how we were going to let him play. And this is how we could, help him get better. So there still has to be that personal connection. And then at the same, like my thing is like, yeah, I know NIL, like a lot of guys are making decisions off of that, but there's still a lot of guys out there that want to get better. Like Deontay Green, like, not that he didn't get better at Florida State, but he's like, man, well, I want to be able to play,
right.
My natural position. And there I had to do this. And I told him, no, Tay, it ain't about that. It's like, are you a position or are you a basketball player? And that's not me. That's Tom Crean, right? Like I worked for him for 1 year, but it was like getting a PhD, in basketball working for him. And like he changed how I thought about development, because it's not about making them good at what their strengths are. It's about improving their strengths, improving their weaknesses, but helping them become the best basketball player they can become, because all of these guys, they have goals and dreams of being professionals. Well, we all see like now, you're looking at Jokic at 7 foot. He a basketball player. He ain't a center. He a basketball player. You're looking at Kyrie at 6 foot or 6'1", whatever he is. That dude could play any position on the court as skilled as he is, right? So let's make them better basketball players.
Yeah, embracing change, especially in college athletics right now, that is a key component to being successful. As we talk about changes to the sport, your conference, the AAC, underwent a major transformation of members last year, even one this year.
Yep.
With all that going on, there's still some really good programs and coaches in this league. So do you feel the conference is underrated on a national landscape?
Underrated is an understatement. If there was what other word other than like, and I'm serious, man. Like this league is a bear. Like it was a bear. I don't know. Like I think UTSA finished last year, right? But I think if you looked at their roster from top to bottom, like man, they were one of the more talented rosters in our league, right? You look at what Coach Fisher, like he takes over. He's in year one at Temple. They were talented, man. They were physical. They were tough, and then they made it to the semis for sure. Maybe made it to the they made it to the championship game. Mm-hmm. They made it to the championship game, and like you could tell all year, like man, they were right there. Like obviously outside looking in, you don't know exactly why they couldn't, quite. But like man, that wasn't no easy game here or in Philly when we played them. So really good coaches. I mean, Andy Kennedy, as good as they come, man, as good as they come. And, Mike Schwartz at ECU, as good as they come, and on down the line, man, like, and then this year, you throw a John Jacobson at FAU, who's been a part of a lot of winning at Baylor. Like, man, it's very underrated from a coaching standpoint. And then our conference, I think, we lost the most players, like from like impact players from the transfer portal, like across the board. We lose our top 3 scorers at here. I think Temple lost Hasir Miller, Jaleel White, like they lost their guys, on down the line. Like everybody, like, PJ Haggerty left Tulsa and went to Memphis, but it's still like, so that tells you, what is that? That tells you right there about our conference, that it's like quality players that can play anywhere. So
quality
underrated
players, quality coaching, top to bottom there in the AAC. And yet last year, there are the Bulls at the top of the mountain. And a lot of the reason why is there are a couple of clear areas where your team just flatly excelled last year, right? You were great shooting the three, shot almost 37% from behind the arc. You guys got to the free throw line a ton, almost 38 attempts per game. So wanted to know, like, is that more to do with your philosophy and something that you're going to continue to preach on the offensive end this year? Or is that more to do with kind of responding to the guys that you had on the court?
It was more responding to the guys we had on the court, but I think, wanting to play with the type of spacing and freedom we want to play with, it can become hard to defend, like, because it's not like we're running a play and then the play breaks down. No, like it's positionless basketball, not to be so cliche, and teaching them what we want, like, and then allowing them just to go be basketball players, and not trying to control every aspect of the game. Look, we want this. I'm not telling them don't take a mid-range shot. I'm not that analytics guy just yet, but it's like, look, I want paint touches, because paint touches are either going to lead to high percentage shots, free throws, or wide open threes, and our ball energy, like that ball energy has to be elite. Like we have to give up good for great, and great for elite.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And I mean, you look at all the advanced analytics, right? They're saying take a lot of threes and get to the free throw line. That's going to win you a lot of games. And just kind of clean up there is a 38% free throw rate, shot 37% from three there. So getting it done for sure. Coach, before we get you out of here, I hear that in Tampa, y'all like to, I don't know if I'm going to say it right, relax. So, how does that tie into your program's culture, and what's the message behind it?
Well, our mantra in our program is EDGE, right? Okay. We got to have an edge. Everyone dedicating great effort. It's that acronym of EDGE, right? Because when I got here last summer, man, what I noticed, as I was on the road, man, all the coaches, oh, congrats, man, you down there in Tampa, man, it's nice down there. It just felt like people were looking forward to coming down here and playing. They were they wanted the weather. The trip was nice. So we wanted to create an edge, but however, when we lost the guys, we lost to the portal, was like, I'm not on social media a whole lot, like searching or scrolling for stuff, but people are like, oh, we're going to be bad again. And it's like, hold on, relax. Like, we still got Jayden Reid, guys. We got Kobe Knox, like nice. Brandon Stroud, Kason Jennings, and then we sign, like, boom, we get Jimmy Williams, we get Jamil Reynolds, and we get Deontay Green. And it's like, yo, man, relax, man. Y'all thought we were going to suck last year. Like, I remember what everybody was saying when we got the job. And at that point, we only had 6 guys on the roster. And it's like, nah, man, like, it's still about culture. It's still about habits. It's still about connection. And I just, man, every day we're going to work to be the toughest, most connected team in the country. And I say humbly, we won't be afraid to play against anybody. Like, it is what it is. We want to ultimately play in that NCAA tournament, and not just play in it. Like, we want to get to that second weekend, because once you get to that second weekend, anything can happen.
South Florida Bulls head coach Amir Abdur-Rahim. If you are not watching Bulls hoops, I don't know what you're doing with your time, but do yourself a favor. Check out what he is building there in the Tampa St. Pete area. It is something absolutely special. Make your way out to the YC, which gets rocking whenever the Bulls are playing at home. Coach, we really appreciate you spending some time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate the insights you offered up, and good luck next season.
I'm telling you now, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. And I'm telling you, when you come to that YC and you see that Soul Flow Rodeo student section rocking, I'm telling you, it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
Absolutely tremendous stuff from Coach Amir Abdur-Rahim there. If you are watching along on YouTube, show Coach a little bit of love by hitting that like button. Jump up in that comment section like Lonnie did, showing a little love to Coach. Appreciate you swinging through, Lonnie. Mike, there was a ton of really interesting nuggets, really insightful pieces of information that Coach shared there. So right off the rip, we were lucky enough to sit down with him for this interview. Where does your mind go? What are some of the things that really stick out from the conversation for you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, such a great interview, great insight. Like, we appreciate the time that he gave us there. I think one of the things that sticks out to me is I love his answer about complacency. Like, it's his job, right? Even though they won 25 games, it's the most in program history. It was his first year. He's coming off the extension. Like, it's his job to make sure that this complacency doesn't set in for this program. He has bigger plans for this program, namely getting into the NCAA tournament and obviously seeing if how far they can go. So I also like that he talked about how strong the AAC is. A lot of good coaches, a lot of good players. Like, there is turnover in every conference, and there's turnover on his roster. But he's excited about who he gets to coach and the guys that he's bringing in. So that stood out. And then one other point, like, he's just a straight shooter. Like, I can see why his players buy into his message. Just a phenomenal interview. Thank you, Coach, for that. And yeah, man, what were your reactions when afterwards, now that you've had some time to digest everything with Coach?
Man, there was a lot to digest there, right? Like, there were insights and takeaways from every single response that he gave to us. And the thing that was really clear for me as a through line, and he mentioned it specifically in one of his answers. So much of this game, so much of success in coaching is about relationships, and you can tell that he has relationships with everyone up and down the program. He has relationships one-to-one with the members of his team, with the kids that he's recruiting, right? It just there's very clearly that that love and that one-to-one connection. He mentioned specifically as well, love is making sure that you're doing what you need to, right? The lesson that he learned from his parents. So that that theme is very clear in his answers and the way that he approaches the game. Another thing that I really loved is he mentioned it there towards the end, the edge. Everyone dedicating great effort, right? This program, this Bulls program, this is on the come up. They've turned around, and clearly these types of turnarounds are built brick by brick, right? It is the little things that you have to get right before you can build momentum for the big things. It takes a very special type of coach to institute that particular type of culture. I think that Coach Abdur-Rahim has that in spades. We've also got one of our favorites, one of our breadheads here, Snake Eyes, checking in. Go Bulls. I'm a fan as well. It is a fun program to watch, and obviously something really special that is going on here with this USF program, which we will take a little bit of a deeper dive into, right? Mike, like I mentioned off the top, most wins in program history in year number 1. That's a pretty high bar for Coach to set for himself. Like you mentioned, unfortunately, didn't make it to the tournament in year number 1. A lot of that had to do with some pretty tough losses to open the season. But down the stretch run, December through February, they put on a pretty impressive run, right? Like, they were able to win the AAC regular season championship. They finished the year inside the top 100 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. They were first in defensive efficiency during AAC play, right? Just a very impressive campaign in year number 1. So, Mike, let's take a closer look at this projected roster and see what Coach is expected to be trotting out next year.
Yeah, and Coach said he loves this roster, and I really like this roster too. Last year, really one big in the lineup at all times for Coach here. So, Kayshawn Pryor was that guy. He's obviously headed out the door. This offense was basically like a 5-man out system. What they do at the 5 is going to be key. He mentioned Jamil Reynolds, a very appealing option. He's coming over from Cincinnati. We talked to him about wanting to get to the free throw line, wanting to shoot threes. Reynolds, a guy on limited attempts, 42% last year from 3, but he's a bigger body than what they had at the 5 last year. So it gives you some of those quality post-up opportunities, some of those paint touches that he talks about. Or do they go someone like Corey Walker? He's entering his 4th year in the program. He also mentioned Florida State transfer De'Anthony Green, who has a lot of upside. So, yeah, you'd love to see what he's got kind of in this rebuilt front court. We know Brandon Stroud is kind of going to be that small ball 4, really good size, an excellent defender, very versatile. He started 22 games last year. Kobe Knox comes back. He was a starter last year. the point guard starting spot feels like it's Jayden Reid's to lose. He was quietly one of the best freshmen in the country. The question is, like, who's going to start next to him in that backcourt? Coach mentioned Kason Jennings. People can't forget about him. He redshirted last year. He was with Coach at Kennesaw State a few years ago and in the rotation. Obviously, an injury forcing him to redshirt, but Jennings knows the system. He's a sneaky breakout player. So there's a lot, Eric, to like about this roster here in the AAC. What are your thoughts? Kind of looking big picture here at the conference in general as we sit here almost in mid-June.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about how this conference is shaping up, right? Like during the interview, Coach mentioned that there's some strong coaching top to bottom in this league. There are a lot of very talented rosters out there. Looking back to last year, the AAC finished 9th in the country in KenPom's strength of conference rating. I mean, look, with the AAC, as has been kind of tradition here for a while, Memphis is always going to be part of that discussion, right? But also he mentioned FAU specifically. John Jacobs has done a tremendous job retooling this Owls roster after Dusty May left for Michigan, and many of the FAU players left as well, right? We got UAB, super talented. They're coming in off of a tournament appearance last year. Just this conference it feels like it's going to be hyper competitive, but it feels like it can go a number of different ways, right? It feels like it's pretty wide open. So, Mike, I believe that the Bulls have the tools for another big run in the AAC, right? Are you sitting here in mid-June with a similar point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would put them right up with everyone that you just kind of mentioned. Clearly, they have a great coach. The roster retention is there. They added some key pieces. The high upside pieces like Reynolds, like Green, some of these other guys. There's no doubt that they should be able to contend for back-to-back regular season championships. It all just depends, right? It's a tough conference. Can you win that conference tournament? Can you win some games early in the season, right, to put yourself in an at-large position? And really, Coach wants to get that ticket punched to the NCAA tournament. So time will tell. We're just in, basically mid-June, right? You want to get through the offseason healthy. You want to develop your players. All that stuff comes into play. We still have to see what all the teams, right, look like once they hit the floor. So one thing that you can be confident in, though, is that, Coach is going to have a fighter out there. His team's going to fight. And I'm expecting big things again, as we head into year 2 for Coach.
Yeah, definitely a scrappy team. He intended to bring the edge to Tampa St. Pete, and he absolutely did. Nobody is wanting to go into that YC unless you're in that student section, which looks like it is an absolute blast every single time that they're playing. Again, wanted to extend our deepest appreciation and thanks to the USF program, to Coach Amir Abdur-Rahim for spending some time and for sharing his perspective with us. If you are rocking along with us here on YouTube, definitely let us know if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts about the interview. Get up in that comment section. Let us know as we continue our summer road trip which programs you want to see us sit down with next, and make sure that you are not only subscribed, but you have hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the shows and the contents that we're putting out there. We are talking to plenty of coaches. We are breaking down transfer portal. Mike, I think we're jumping into recruiting here before long. Yep. So maybe the off season, college basketball never sleeps in our minds. So until the next one, crack open that Mai Tai, crack open a cold one, put the sunscreen on, keep gearing up for the one and done summer road trip series as we make our way across the landscape of college basketball. We will see you in the next one.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.